the Nicomachean ethics of Aristotle.
Read and presented by George Pitropogiannakis.
Book 7, Chapter 6.
It is plain then that the object matter of imperfect self-control and self-control is restricted to the same as that of utter absence of self-control, and that of perfected self-mastery, and that the rest is the object matter of a different species, so named metaphorically. And not simply, we will now examine the position that imperfect self-control in respect of anger is less disgraceful than that in respect of lusts. In the first place, it seems that anger does in a way listen to reason, but mishears it, as quick servants who run out before they have heard the whole of what is said, and then mistake the order. Dogs again bark at the slightest stir before they have seen whether it be friend or foe. Just so anger, by reason of its natural heat and quickness, listening to reason, but without having heard the command of reason, rushes to its revenge. That is to say, reason or some impression on the mind shows there is insolence or contempt in the offender, and then anger, reasoning, as it were, that one ought to fight against. What is such fires up immediately, whereas lust, if reason or sense, as the case may be, merely says a thing is sweet, rushes to the enjoyment of it. And so anger follows reason in a manner, but lust does not, and is therefore more disgraceful, because he that cannot control his anger yields in a manner to reason, but the other to his lust, and not to reason at all. Again, a man is more excusable for following such desires as are natural, just as he is for following such lusts as are common to all, and to that degree in which they are common. Now, anger and irritability are more natural than lusts when in excess, and for objects not necessary. This was the ground of the defense the man made who beat his father. My father, he said, used to beat his, and his father his again, and this little fellow here, pointing to his child, will beat me when he is grown a man. It runs in the family. And the father, as he was being dragged along, bid his son leave off beating him at the door, because he had himself been used to drag his father so far and no farther. Again, characters are less unjust in proportion as they involve less insidiousness. Now, the angry man is not insidious, nor is anger, but quite open. But lust is, as they say, of Venus, Cyprus-born goddess, weaver of deceits, or Homer of the girdle called the cestus, persuasiveness, cheating in the subtlest mind. And so, since this kind of imperfect self-control is more unjust, it is also more disgraceful than that in respect of anger, and is simply imperfect self-control and vice in a certain sense. Again, no man feels pain in being insolent, but everyone who acts through anger does act with pain, and he who acts insolently does it with pleasure. If then those things are most unjust, with which we have most right to be angry, then imperfect self-control, arising from lust, is more so than that arising from anger, because in anger there is no insolence. Well then, it is clear that imperfect self-control in respect of lusts is more disgraceful than that in respect of anger, and that the object matter of self-control and the imperfection of it are bodily lusts and pleasures. But of this lust we must take into account the differences, for, as was said at the commencement, some are proper to the human race and natural both in kind and degree, others brutish, and others caused by maimings and diseases. Now, the first of these only are the object matter of perfected self-mastery and utter absence of self-control, and therefore we never attribute either of these states to brutes, except metaphorically, and whenever any one kind of animal differs entirely from another in insolence, mischievousness, or voracity, because they have not moral choice or process of deliberation, but are quite different from that kind of creature, just as are madmen from other men. Brutishness is not so low in the scale as vice, yet it is to be regarded with more fear, because it is not that the highest principle has been corrupted, as in the human creature, but the subject has it not at all. It is much the same, therefore, as if one should compare an inanimate with an animate being, which were the worse. For the badness of that which has no principle of origination is always less harmful. Now, intellect is a principle of origination. A similar case would be the comparing injustice and an unjust man together. For in different ways each is the worst. A bad man would produce 10,000 times as much harm as a bad brute.